Hey everybody, this is setting up FTXUI with CMAKE and CMAKE fetch content. There are actually really nice tutorials on the FTXUI docs and website, but I like to do this in a slightly different way. So let's get started. Let me just bring in my terminal. So I have an empty repository here, and we'll start by creating the directories and files required. So obviously we need a root CMake file. So I'm going to say CMake touch CMake list.txt, and I need a vendors folder to store my all of my dependencies, and a src directory to put my code files. So I'm going to say mkdir vendors, and I'll do src2. And let's start with the CMake file. So let me just create a tmark session so that I do not have to switch between folders in the build directory. So obviously we need a build directory, so I'm going to create that too before I start coding. So I have a build directory or two. So let's start coding. Inside the CMake, I just need the very minimum stuff. I'm going to say CMake minimum required. Let's just put in version as 3.15. Just feel free to use any version you're comfortable with. I'm going to say project as, let's say, my app, and I need to kind of include the vendors directory and src directory. So I'm going to say add subdirectory. So that kind of adds the vendors and src. What basically it does is looks for a CMake list.txt file inside the vendors directory and the src directory. There you go, right? That's all we need for the root CMake file. And let's kind of go inside the vendors directory, right? So so what I do is for every dependency that I have, I just create a folder inside the vendors directory and just put all the related CMake contents inside it. So let me just create a CMake list.txt file for the vendors directory and say add subdirectory as FTX, right? We call this FTX. I'll just create a directory there. Let me just rename that FTX, and we'll put a CMake file inside this, and let's say CMake list.txt, and we will say include the fetch content module. We need to create a declaration, so there's a fetch content declare, and we will say, just look at that, we need to do fetch content make available to. See, let's just say fetch content make available. Cool. And we will do it as, let's just create a declaration first, right? So I'm going to say FTX, and let's just say FTXUI, right? And what do we do? So we need to say from where are we putting this? I'm going to say get repository, and we will pull that in a minute and say get tag. I don't kind of know it's master, or I think it's main, right? We just pull the latest one, and we will fetch the git repository. So I'm going to say this, copy the code, bring back and paste that. So we can have that. And what we say make available is going to be FTXUI, right? FTXUI. And that's done. So what this CMake file does is kind of an include is telling I need the fetch content module. I want you to create a declaration. I want you to make it available. So what make available does is it kind of inserts the FTXUI dependency into my project. And so that's done. So what else? Okay, so we'll just move to the src, which means we need a main.cpp file to put in our code, which we will bring in from one of the examples here. Let me see. Start template, example, layout. Okay. I was hoping we could find an example from here. Maybe we'll look inside the starter template here, right? So there you go, starter template. And we will look inside src, let's say main.cpp. Okay, so we've got one. We'll just try this. We will put our code, right? We will create a CMake file for our source directory, and we will open that, right? So what will we do? So I like to have my binaries inside the build directory slash bin. So to do that, you're gonna say CMake binary. So CMake runtime output directory, and say CMake binary dir slash bin, right? We need to make this uppercase. Okay, that looks good now. Then we need to create our executable. So add executable. I'm gonna say app and say main.cpp as our main program. That's where it is. And say target link libraries. We need to link our application to the FTXUI, right? Now, how do I know what do I need to link to, right? This is something I kind of initially struggled. So I think this is one nice way to kind of figure this out. So what I do is sometimes what I do, not every time, is oftentimes kind of very, like it's the name of the project, but sometimes you just have to figure out how like the name of the binary, name of the library, correct? So what I do is, okay, so this is the CMake file of the FTX library, and it says this is the project, right? So I kind of know this is the FTX UI, and there's something that I need to do, right? So let me just go. So this is the project. So you have the kind of the prefix there and the name of the library. There you go, like add library screen. So let's just do screen here. Let's just see if any other library is there. So, okay. So that's add library DOM. So I'm going to copy that and paste that DOM. And what else? So we've got component, right? So basically, this is something you can do to kind of figure out what if you're missing something. If you run into a blocker, and maybe this is a nice way to kind of figure out how to do that. And so we have that. Let's kind of scan through if we are missing anything. We have our main file. Let's see. Let's just try and run. Okay, don't kind of do that. We'll go to the build directory and say cmake space dot dot. So it'll try and pull the FTX UI from GitHub. Okay, so we have that. I'm gonna say make. Now you can say make, just make, or you can say make minus J and the number of cores you have. How do I find that? So I'm on Linux. I'm gonna say nproc, and it's going to okay nproc. Okay, it says 16, so which means I have 16 cores. So I'm gonna say make minus J 16. You can say make minus J8, J4, depending on your load on your system. So let's see. So it gets much faster. So what essentially is doing is if you do just make, it's gonna build one by one. So here what is happening is it's much faster because it's building multiple stuff at a time. So we have the app build. So it says build target app. We will look at the bin directory and try and run. Okay, there you go. Right, we have our kind of the application running. So this is a nice and clean way to kind of set up FTXUI. Now, you do not necessarily have to do it this way. Like there's actually, you could just put everything in one file. You could just put the entire thing that we did inside this root CMake file. But let's say you want to include another library, maybe a JSON library or a parsing library. This is a nice way to kind of keep it separate from your application logic. And I think on the longer run, this might be a cleaner approach. So thank you for watching.